Good day, everyone. Father Jimmy, hope you're doing well on this 25th day of August. It is Sunday, and it is the 21st Sunday in Ordinary Time. Today, I'm going to be reading from our first reading as well as from our Gospel, from our liturgy. Our first reading comes from the book of Joshua, chapter 24. Joshua gathered together all the tribes of Israel at Shechem, summoning their elders, their leaders, their judges, and their officers. And when they stood in ranks before God, Joshua addressed all the people. If it does not please you to serve the Lord, decide today whom you will serve, the gods your fathers served beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose country you are now dwelling. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. But the people answered, Far be it from us to forsake the Lord for the service of other gods. For it was the Lord our God who brought us and our fathers up out of the land of Egypt, out of a state of slavery. He performed those great miracles before our eyes and protected us along our entire journey. And among the peoples through whom we passed, therefore we also will serve the Lord, for he is our God. And our gospel today is taken from the Gospel of St. John, chapter 6, beginning with verse 60, as we conclude the great Bread of Life discourse. Many of Jesus' disciples who were listening said, This saying is hard. Who can accept it? Since Jesus knew that his disciples were murmuring about this, he said to them, Does this shock you? What if you were to see the Son of Man ascending to where he was before? It is the Spirit that gives life, while the flesh is of no avail. The words I have spoken to you are spirit and life, but there are some of you who do not believe. Jesus knew from the beginning the ones who would not believe and the one who would betray him. And he said, For this reason I have told you that no one can come to me unless it is granted him by my Father. As a result of this, many of the disciples returned to their former way of life and no longer accompanied him. Jesus then said to the 12, Do you also want to leave? Simon Peter answered him, Master, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and are convinced that you are the Holy One of God. To be a people of faith can mean celebrating moments of great joy and enduring moments of great tribulation. This is our salvation history, and the scriptures narrate the struggles of ancient Israel and of Jesus' disciples. It can also be a struggle for us today. It may be easier when things are going well. For example, in our first reading, after God handed his people victory in the promised land, they heartily commit with Joshua to serve the Lord above other gods. Still, they will be tempted as the memory of what God has done fades or as their fortunes turn. In our gospel today, the situation is quite changed. God's people no longer enjoy control of the promised land. They're under Roman occupation. They've been waiting for a powerful Messiah to restore their fortunes, but wrestle with what to make of Jesus. Though they witness his miracles and healings, he is not what they expected. By breaking the Sabbath and claiming God as his own Father, he is rejected by religious authorities. As if they were not scandalous enough, Jesus starts teaching that he is the bread of life, and whoever eats this bread, feeds on his flesh, will have life because of him. They will not die, but live forever. This shocks the people, and some cannot accept it. They find this teaching hard to understand, and many give up on following him. It's easier to commit to a life of faith when there is a tangible reason, such as possession of a promised land under your feet. The same may be true today. Living as a disciple can mean undergoing particular trials that others do not, and it is tempting to give up when it becomes too difficult. It can be hard to accept that things are not always going to our way, that we are not just going to be handed victories all the time by God. It is hard to understand that Jesus did not come to give us wealth and power, but his body and blood as a sacrifice. He came out of love to give himself as the bread of life, to be broken and shared for us. This is the mystery of our faith. Jesus was crucified, died, and rose to save us. We will never fully fathom this mystery until we're united with Jesus in heaven. To be people of faith does not mean understanding every teaching or never struggling to accept. Faith is more than just trust. When Jesus asked the 12 if they too were going to leave, Peter replies that Jesus is the Holy One, so where else would they go? They trust Jesus enough to continue to follow him. In time, they see and receive what the bread of life means, and this feeds their faith. We must remember that faith is a gift. We receive it from God, and we respond by committing to serve him and follow Jesus, even when it is not easy. To be people of faith means we trust God to fill us, especially through the great mystery of the Eucharist, with all that grace that we will need. Once again, I hope your Sunday is going well. As we conclude this whole series of the Bread of Life discourse, it makes our appreciation of the Eucharist hopefully to grow, especially as we continue to renew our faith in that real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, his body, his blood, his soul, and his divinity. Let's take care, everybody, and let's keep praying for one another. Enjoy the rest of the day. God bless you.